Hi guys, and welcome to another video where we're going to be looking at relative formula mass. Before we get onto relative formula mass, you need to understand what the term relative atomic mass means. And relative atomic mass is given a symbol capital A with a subscript R. And if you take a look at this element that we've got on the board, you'll notice that every element has two numbers attached to it. It has this number at the bottom, which is called the atomic number, which is also the number of protons. And we also have this number at the top, which is referred to as the relative atomic mass. Now, I've already said that relative atomic mass has the symbol capital A subscript R. And relative atomic mass just means the average mass of an element's atoms compared to carbon 12. And the reason why relative atomic mass is important is because we use relative atomic masses to calculate the relative formula mass, sometimes written in exams as the MR. Now, the relative formula mass or the relative molecular mass is just a sum of all the relative atomic masses in a formula. Okay, so our first one, we have sodium chloride. And looking in the periodic table, we can tell that sodium has a relative atomic mass of 23. And chlorine has a relative atomic mass of 35.5. Now remember, the MR, or the relative formula mass of sodium chloride, is just a sum of their relative atomic masses. And that gives sodium chloride the relative formula mass of 58.5. Okay, well, how about lithium hydroxide? Again, if we look at our periodic table, lithium has a relative atomic mass of 7. Oxygen has a relative atomic mass of 16. And hydrogen has a relative atomic mass of 1. So that means that the relative formula mass of lithium hydroxide is going to be 7 plus 16 and plus 1. That gives us a relative formula mass of 24. Now remember, relative formula mass doesn't have any units because again it's compared to carbon 12. Okay, if you look at these examples, when calculating relative formula mass, there's a bit of difficulty in these because we have brackets introduced. So first of all, we look at calcium. The relative formula mass for calcium is 40. We know that oxygen's is 16 from our previous question, and we know that hydrogen is 1. So we need to add these two together. But take note of the number outside the bracket. This number means everything inside the bracket we multiply by 2. So we know that 16 plus 1 gives us 17. And then we need to times that 17 by 2, which gives us 34. So that means the relative formula mass for calcium hydroxide is going to be 40, as that was the relative atomic mass of calcium, plus 34. And that gives us a relative formula mass of 74. Pause the video and see if you can work out the relative formula mass of lead nitrate. Okay, so lead has a mass of 207. Nitrogen has a mass of 14. And oxygen has a mass of 16. But notice the 3 next to it. So we need to times that by 3. 16 times 3 is 48. So what would need to go in the bracket would be 14 plus 48 times 2. And then remember, we need to add 207 to our answer. And that gives a relative formula mass for lead nitrate of 331. Okay guys, thanks for tuning in. Stay in touch for another video.